You're listening to the oneofus.net podcast network. This movie, Logan Lucky, takes place in the state of West Virginia. West Virginia. As opposed to Virginia, where I'm from. For the final fucking time, I am not from West Virginia.
Yeah, but John Denver never wrote a hit about West Virginia.
Virginia, Marco.
He wrote for West Virginia.
I'm from Virginia,
but no
Marco.
one cares about Virginia.
I'm confused.
West
Chris,
Virginia is where it's at.
So what you're saying is you're a virgin.
You know, I'm afraid that ship sailed some time ago. But, yeah.
Virgin Isles, no doubt.
No. I mean, come on. Me and my sister, long time ago. No, just
Wait,
kidding.
you said
I'm
you
not
weren't
from West Virginia.
Look,
That was the
don't
joke.
ever
See?
try to say that you're not a virgin and then start your story with me and my sister a long time ago. Because that's creepy as fuck, dude.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If I was from West Virginia, that would be the story.
Hey.
See? Sorry to any of our listeners from West Virginia. You got to understand, if you're from West Virginia, West Virginia is where you make fun of. That's where your jokes are. Just like to some degree, it used to, when I first moved here, Louisiana was where people from Texas would make jokes about. And I'm sure, name your state, everybody's got their other state they like to make fun of.
You cross the state line, and all of a sudden, the intelligence quotient just drops dramatically. No matter where you're at.
We're like, sure, we're rednecks in Virginia, but damn.
We ain't them rednecks. We're a better breed of redneck.
I'm sure those guys still curse Deliverance every time it comes on TV. Oh, here it all begins again.
Oh, great. Yes, I'm a blind banjo player. Yes, I've heard them all. Come on.
Well, this is definitely a story about some rednecks in West Virginia, but some really remarkably smart rednecks, considering how incredibly elaborate their bank heist plan is, despite constantly being reminded by the film how not terribly smart they are.
Well, no,
not a bank.
It's how
a
terribly
heist.
dumb everybody assumes they are.
Yeah.
This is that rare movie that not only manages to poke a little fun at rural people, but also gives them a shred of humanity and gives their characters something to build on. That's a nice touch.
It's taking advantage of lowered expectations.
It is unusual that and I actually thought was like not totally balanced, that it both is showing how absurd these guys are and really genuinely giving affection to the culture and the way that they feel about stuff. There's actually a very touching moment in here where Channing Tatum's little girl sings the John Denver song.
Oh, don't give too much
about West Virginia, and it's like, wow, this is actually trying very hard to be genuine in this moment.
Well, it's succeeding too.
Unlike Deliverance, it actually likes West Virginia. This movie thinks West Virginia is okay.
And then it's by Steven Soderbergh.
Deliverance was Kentucky. I don't know.
No, it's West Virginia.
Is it West Virginia?
Yeah.
Okay.
But this is by Steven Soderbergh, who I would have bet has never stepped foot in West Virginia before this.
No.
Yeah.
No?
No, he's from the South. I mean, Sex, Lies, and Videotape, that took place in Georgia.
Believe me, not everyone from the South goes to West Virginia.
Well,
that's like
I've been to West Virginia.
Once again, the Virginian telling you that's a toxic waste dump we would all step around.
But look, come on. I'm from Texas, and we're recording this in Austin, Texas. And anyone who's lived in Texas long enough knows, okay, oh, look, there's a Texan in my movie. Yeah, he's probably an idiot. You just kind of learn to deal with it. This movie manages to actually sidestep a lot of that issues. It allows us to play with some of those misconceptions and some of those, frankly, realistic parts of the culture that other parts of the country sniff at. But, like I said, at the end of the day,
you keep saying misconceptions, and I'm not sure that's the right word.
That's probably, I'm a little addled. Maybe misconception, maybe preconceived notion.
There you go.
If you have a preconceived notion
you're
of
probably
what
right about.
people are like in a certain part of the country.
That you're almost certainly correct about.
Yeah, but there may be some truth to it, but there are also good people, and there are also people who are smart, and there are also people who are clever enough to rip off NASCAR for a lot of money.
Here's the catch, Marco. If they were smart, they wouldn't be living in West Virginia anymore.
That's just an accident of geography. No one chooses where they're born.
I apologize. I will say this: West Virginia does have some great whitewater when you're not Ned Beatty being raped by rednecks.
We're poking a lot of jokes at West Virginia's expense, but we need to say that this, at least in my opinion, this was a fantastic film. I really enjoyed
You
the
guys
hell out of
clearly
it.
liked it. I mean, y'all were cackling like witches sitting next to me over there throughout this, and I was never quite as taken with it as you guys were.
Perhaps
but
not,
Before we
again.
get to that, let's just talk about the movie here,
Yeah.
the plot. This follows around the Logan family, the three siblings: Jimmy, played by Channing Tatum; Mellie, played by Riley Keough; and Clyde, played by Adam Driver, who have what they think of as the family curse. Jimmy has a bum leg that they don't go into details, but you assume happened because he was like a high school
like a football
quarterback.
injury,
He was on his way to the NFL, and he got a bad enough injury there was no way he was ever going to play again. Clyde, in Iraq, 2 tours of Iraq, got his arm blown off. Oh,
On the way home,
on the way home, but the lower half of his arm, as he keeps pointing out.
No, his hand. He
Yeah,
lost
his hand.
but
Well,
he
it's like
loses
it's
an
his elbow down. you
Well,
know.
no, it's not quite. It's the
still-
very bottom part of his arm.
Right.
But the arm itself is intact as he
Constantly
points out
reminds people, he didn't lose a whole arm.
And
basically
he
definitely
lost his
the
forearm
hand,
down.
and
then some.
but yeah.
Yeah.
Not all of the forearm.
And then Mellie, actually, nothing's really wrong with
No.
except that she lives in West Virginia.
And
that's
honestly,
a curse.
Clyde, the Adam Driver character, is the only one who really seems to buy into this, even if, the rest of his siblings just kind of tolerate him.
Well, and yeah, Jimmy is like, working construction, and he gets let go because they're like, oh, it's actually an insurance issue, you having that leg issue. I'm sorry, we got to let you go.
because he didn't disclose it.
Yeah.
So if something were to happen that made it worse,
Right.
then
Then it
that
would
would
be an
actually be
issue.
a workman's comp.
Don't defend the company, George.
But also,
they're the
I mean,
bad
but
guys.
I understand the logic.
But,
Yeah,
but
I
also
do.
look at the logic of a guy who is divorced, trying to make money, doesn't have the best of prospects, has one job that he can possibly do
Divorced
based on
with-
his mining experience.
Divorced with a kid.
Divorced with a
that
kid.
he has with Katie Holmes, who's remarried since to
She's
a
married up.
mildly douchey but rich car dealership
But
owner.
he's also in that position where it's like, well, if I go in and say, well, I have this limp and I have this he stands to not get the job in the first place. So
Yeah.
he's kind of screwed. And this is one of those great movies where you have a character who feels like society, the system, everything is kind of shit on him.
Yeah.
And he finds a way to get back at what he feels is an injustice. And I think right now in this country at this time, that's a resonant message.
No, of course it is. But I think it is to some degree at any time. I mean, heist movies have been going on
Absolutely.
a lot longer, for
Yeah.
forever and ever. And he decides, yes, we are going to the Speedway. I was before working below. We are going to take down the vault in that speedway at the exact right time. But to do it, we're going to need the skills of an experienced vault explodey guy. That's the technical
The
term. in
demolition
West-
expert.
That's what they call it in West Virginia, the vault explodey guy.
by the name of Joe Bang.
Yeah, by
Bang.
Joe Bang, played bizarrely and really very funny by Daniel Craig. I
Yeah.
mean, one
Incarcerated.
of the funniest things about this movie is how many people who are definitely as far away from Southern accented as you can be.
Right.
Like Daniel Craig doing this hardcore Southern accent.
Yes.
And I thought on the whole everybody did
Then
it
you have
pretty
Brian
well.
Gleason, who's Irish, who plays his brother.
Yeah,
Yeah, Brian
Sebastian
Gleason.
Stan.
And who's the other one?
The other
Quaid
brother
son?
is Jack Quaid.
Jack
as
Quaid.
Fishbang.
Yeah, so they got the two other Bang brothers are really
Who's an
stupid.
expert at computers.
But
And
they have
Jessica
to
White
come in.
all the
himself.
twins.
Isn't
Yeah.
Jessica White the catfish noodler guy? They made a few documentaries about him, the dancing outlaw.
I have no idea.
I believe that's the same guy. I could be incorrect, but he is listed here, Jessica White, as himself.
But there's a
Great cast, period.
Yeah.
This is an unusual heist film in that,
so.
like, usually you see a long period of setting up for the heist.
Yeah.
This
decent
movie,
period of setup.
it's pretty short compared to your average heist movie. Usually, like, the middle act is the setup and the third act is the heist. Here, the whole second act is just the heist, as we are seeing how they figured out how to do it as they're doing it, which is unusual. And the third act is sort of like, are they going to get away with it?
Right.
You
Well,
know?
this is something that's obviously in Soderbergh's wheelhouse. This is, of course, the man who had huge hits with the Ocean series, and on superficially, it resembles that film, and that
Well,
there
and
is
they
a
even dub
complex
it in the
heist.
film Ocean's 7-11.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. He does poke a little fun at
I
himself.
wonder if that was improv.
It could very well
know.
have been, but I think there's some knowing winks within the movie. I think part of what makes it work is Soderbergh, is really known for being kind of a formalist and trying to experiment. Make no mistake, this is a very commercial, very straightforward type of film in that regards.
But he also does
It's not
commercial
arty,
films.
but it is commercial. But rather than tell a straight linear story like you would normally get in most heist films, where you have that moment where it's like, all right, we're going to lay out everything we're going to do, then we're going to actually do it, and then we're going to see, whether there's any blowback or not. He actually has some fun leaping back and forward in time, sometimes leaving us in the dark. But never for long.
Early on,
there's always a satisfying reason for everything that
Channing
happens.
Tatum says, we're only going to let them know what they need to know.
Right.
And it's actually like talking about the audience as well as the characters. he's talking about.
Exactly
Very true.
right. It's like his thesis statement. I'm going to tell you what you need to know. And the satisfaction of this film is watching all the pieces fall into place by the end. And as in any good heist movie. In fact, you can't look at any good heist movie that doesn't deliberately withhold information from the audience.
I will say so that this is definitely a heist comedy.
Yes.
And if you go into this taking the heist part too seriously, you're going to have a little bit trouble buying that this was possible at all. And I know
sure.
I did. It's one of those, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, there's no way in hell these guys could have pulled this off or even planned this. Right. It's so flawless of a plan.
It is. But
and
that's
so
But
complicated.
that's true of the
go
Ocean's
wrong. They
films,
just luck
too.
out in how they go wrong to a certain extent.
But things barely go
And you
wrong.
wouldn't get the participation of NASCAR and all their sponsors if they thought they were actually telling people how to rob them.
Well, no, of course not.
They're like, that's so far-fetched it would never happen, that's fine.
Right, but we're not talking about whether or not NASCAR would sponsor. We're just talking about whether or not it's a plausible story. But
that's also what makes it work, though, is
Right.
because
It's
unlike
true.
the Ocean's film, where you have this crack team of guys who are like the best of the best of the best, who have the latest technology, who have this amazing skill set.
It's a lot easier to believe
These
they
are
could
guys
do
are
it.
kind of like, part of the reason I think they're able to succeed is because they utilize some pretty low-tech methods that most people would have thought, that's not going to work. These guys don't
To
have.
say the
If you
least.
think about the Ocean's film, every time I watch one, I think, how the hell did they bankroll this heist?
Elliot Gould.
Well, okay, but I mean, it's so much money. The amount of money
Just for the tech.
required to
Elliot
pull the tech.
Gould, Marco.
You know what? I don't care if you have Elliot Gould money or not. At some point, you go, shit, we've got plenty of money
Elliot Gould
already.
doesn't even have Elliot Gould.
Not anymore.
But
Sadly.
this was, like I said, I think it's a very fun entry into the heist genre. It has that sort of southern element to it. It has a few moments that are resonant. The characters are very broad and funny at times, but Soderbergh always manages to come back to depict them at some kind of human level. And for that, I enjoyed it. I had a pretty lousy week, and I needed something to enjoy myself, and this just ticked off all my boxes. It was great.
I enjoyed it. Like I said, I just didn't enjoy it as much as you guys did. It felt to me very Coen Brothers light, if you will, like inconsistently.
But I think compare this to Lady Killers, and this is better than Lady Killers.
Sure.
This is
Yeah, it's definitely better.
Dealing
than
with the
This
South
is
and-
Soderbergh light, but still, it's fun. And
but I mean in terms of like the type of humor, the type of setup. I mean, this feels like, because the Coen Brothers love doing their comedies with like lovable white trash is like a big thing for them, and this kind of feels like one of their movies, but inconsistently throughout it. And I kept going. There are moments that are really funny, but they almost feel like someone else came in to write them all of a sudden.
I compare it more to early Jonathan Demme, like
You were saying.
like Citizens
valid.
Band and Melvin and Howard and that sort of thing, and kind of finding that middle American.
I'll be fair, it's
kind
been a really long time since I've watched those movies.
And I
so.
think this is broader than those films you mentioned, but I think that's a very good analogy. And this is the movie that, like the things that Jonathan Demme was doing early in his career, even some of the Ocean's 11 film, which was originally kind of like, Soderbergh's attempt at making a commercial blockbuster. This actually falls in the middle of the road in that it's not an art film. It's not a big blockbuster film. It's a nice, medium-sized action comedy heist film. This is the kind of stuff that back in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, we got on a somewhat fairly regular basis. And maybe not with this level of polish or this caliber of cast, But in this day and age, it's kind of wonderful to get a medium-sized genre picture that is a popcorn film, but is not a tentpole, it's not a blockbuster, it's not based on an adaptation, it's not a reboot, it's not a sequel. That, for me, was a bit of a piece of fresh air. I've never seen these characters before. I've never seen this story before. I had nothing to go on going in other than a trailer. And this movie has been, I think, marketed pretty well in that if you watch the trailer, you're going to get what that trailer offers you.
Right.
And I've seen a lot of films lately where I thought the trailer looked good, but the movie was not what I was promised.
Trailers lie.
Trailers lie.
Number
And
one,
this
This one doesn't.
this is a big
This one
key to
gives
the
you what it-
success of this film, though, because Soderbergh came out of retirement to nobody's surprise. Retirement in quotes. But he put together an interesting package in how he raised the money and how he was distributed, and that gave him, he cut this trailer himself. He said this is the first time
cut the
he's...
movie himself.
Which is super rare.
This is the first time that he's actually been able to put out a trailer that marketed the film the way he wanted it
I
marketed.
wonder if to some degree it has to do with that he thought he was still going to be deeply involved with the Nick overseeing season 3, and then they decided not to renew it, and he's like, I didn't have anything else planned, so I guess I'm going to do this movie of this thing I've been
but
like,
also
noodling with for a while.
He kind of stopped with the Nick because apparently, Showtime was saying, no, you can't do this, you can't do that. So he came up with this distribution model. He pulled investors from all over. He got a new marketing company who agreed to work at a fraction of what they normally work. He got to... Basically, this is Steven Soderbergh taking artistic control. Probably taking a pay cut.
He's always been good at that.
He's always been good at that, but he himself has said, I've never gotten Final Cut. This is his film with Final Cut.
What they say with Soderbergh, you honestly never know what you're going to get with a Soderbergh
No,
film.
of course not.
Like, I mean, he is one of the most interesting experimental filmmakers, and I don't love every movie that he does. But the films I love are...
he doesn't love every
No,
movie. He does.
but the films I love from him are split between his really arty experimental stuff and his really commercial stuff. He does great stuff on both sides. This one definitely leans more towards the commercial stuff significantly, but there's obviously that Soderbergh touch of like... Partially because he's really trying to give you more depth to these characters. Now, one complaint I did have, I thought he maybe overexpanded himself a bit. There's some characters here that are just set dressing, basically, that you could have cut out of the movie entirely and aren't interesting enough where I felt they really added anything.
They're really only there to set up a gag later or pay off some piece of exposition.
Catherine Watterson here is basically a last-minute love interest for Channing Tatum.
And I liked her. She's in 2 scenes. 3 scenes.
Sebastian Stan and Seth MacFarlane as race car drivers who are only there because we don't seem to have any other person who qualifies as a villain in this film, so somebody has to be schmucky enough to be punished somehow.
Seth MacFarlane is a comedy vacuum in this. I don't like him in this at all.
No.
I'm an apologist to a certain level with his live-action stuff, but
Hilary Swank is a strange last-minute addition to the story as an FBI agent who is oddly obsessed with this case that I was like, okay, not really sure what purpose she serves at this point.
I think she's there to... One, I always like seeing whenever Hilary Swank comes on screen. She does great.
She's great.
Stuff. But I think this is the closest thing, as far as like commercial filmmaking goes, I think this is the closest hint at a possible sequel. I don't think they'll go there.
Logan
I hope they
unlucky.
Don't. Logan even unluckier. But yeah, there is a little hint that, you don't get this big, pretty, bow at the end of the storyline. There's a little hint that
I would have been fine with a big, pretty bow at the end of the storyline.
And I think so too. But I think there's that little dangling plot thread of like, dangling's not the right word because dangling implies they forgot it or overlooked it. I think there was an intention to not just wrap up everything and say, oh, everybody lives happily ever after. Not unlike that original Ocean's film where you realize the guy's got away with his heist, but there's still people on their tail. Things may come back to haunt them.
You never know. I will say I really enjoyed Dwight Yoakam's appearances. Those kind of not sleazy.
Oh, he's pretty sleazy.
Like incompetent, but like corrupt warden of the local prison.
Yeah, very self-interested.
Really liked his performance there.
And
there's always that moment when I first see Dwight Yoakam that I always go, "Is that Clint Howard?"
Yeah, you really don't recognize him once he takes the hat off, and then you go, "Oh, that's right, he's completely
bald."
bald."
Dwight Yoakam.
But there's always a second I go, "Is that Clint Howard?" Every single time.
So supposedly this was written by Rebecca Blunt, but that is apparently suspected to be a pseudonym.
There's a bit
Okay,
about
he is
back
saying
and forth on that.
he is saying it absolutely. So Soderbergh said it absolutely is not a pseudonym, and actually released a whole statement saying, "I think it's incredibly insulting to you guys just assuming because she's a first-time screenwriter,
Right.
taking this away from her and going, well, we know it's your wife, we know it's secretly your wife." He actually put out a pretty strong statement, going, "That's really
and that she just
uncool."
doesn't want to talk to the press.
Yeah.
Why is that such a bad? Why is that so bad?
Yeah.
And hey, if this is her first, I'd like to see what she does next because she has a good
It's
eye
a decent
for this
script.
type of
Once
story.
again, I still felt needed some. It could have lost 20 minutes, and which would have meant some characters not being in this at all, and I would have been fine with that. But anyway, Marco, go into your final thoughts.
Like I said, I had a great time at this. I thought it pushed a lot of my buttons in terms of what I wanted, in terms of a little bit of social commentary, a lot of fun, some broad comedy, but characters with heart, a few thrilling sequences, a heist that was, even if it was at times implausible, it was at least original and well staged. A lot of great actors in this, a really cool soundtrack. I mean, my only quibble is I'm not a big fan of this sort of smeary digital look that Soderbergh is embracing with this particular film, but that again is a minor quibble. I really enjoyed this, and I think you will. Okay, final thoughts. I give this 8 out of 10 unreleased copies of George R.R. Martin's next book.
Good one. George.
Pretty much on the same page. I thought the performances, with one exception, were all great. I really liked all the characters. I really, as long as it also felt like it could have been longer, and I would have been happy to spend more time with everybody. I appreciated that. Heist was really well staged. Everything was just really well done. I got exactly what I wanted out of the movie, and probably a little more. It's something that I could easily watch again. You know, it kind of has that Midnight Run rewatchability to it. Where you can just, keep
Strong words, George.
Yeah.
Strong words.
I think it does. I think this movie will age like a nice hug, and you'll be able to watch it anytime when it's on cable. You just won't be able to turn it off. I think it's that type of movie, and it has a really strong appeal for that. I think anytime Soderbergh works in comedy, it's always something I want to see. He has a real light touch here, but it's something that I, really appreciate. I think overall, kind of going back and forth, but I give it 9 out of 10 very scary robotic hands.
Like a nice hug, it's always very uncomfortable when you share it with someone that at first it's really nice, but then doesn't know when to let go. And this is kind of what this movie felt like to me. It was more than it needed to be, and by that, not enough. I'm so interested in the main characters in this film that I got distracted and uncomfortable with a lot of the side characters going, no, go back to the main people. They're the ones I want to see you spend time with. And finding out that all those other side characters don't really add up to anything. I was like, all right. I mean, even like the brothers, the two dumb brothers, we really know next to nothing about, and they aren't given very much to do, even though they're part of the main team. I don't know. I found this very uneven, but also charming at the same time. I mean, it has Charming Potato in the lead, so, I'm always good with that. If 5 years ago, I'd told myself, go back and tell myself 5 years ago, you're going to be a big Channing Tatum fan, I would have gone them's fighting words. And now I'm a big Channing Tatum fan. So there you go. Still don't think he should be Gambit, but whatever. I think there are a lot of good performances throughout this thing. Once again, Tatum handles himself well. Driver plays it so downbeat, I was almost kind of surprised, but he's fine in it. Riley Keough is really great in this. But the standout is Daniel Craig as Joe Bang, who just lights up the screen every time he's on it and is so funny. Definitely has all the best moments in this movie. I think this is fun, but not hardly essential. I give it 6.5 out of 10 missing arms, or at least part of an arm.
Hand. Just say the hand.
Hand and part of an arm. It was part of the arm.
The upper.
It's like 5.5 arms and half a hand. How about that?
OneOfUs.net has been your one-stop shop for all things geek for years. But there's a side to them many of you have never heard. The subscription side. Subscribe and listen to great podcasts like The Breakfast Pub, The Original Gentleman, and the Watch a Movie With Us series. head on over to oneofus.net and don't forget your towel.